Hi, I'm Maddie Wilkinson. I am in Boston, Massachusetts.
And I'm Ethan Lerner, and I'm from Winnipeg, Canada.
And hi, I'm Andrea Hennen. I'm from Germany, but actually on a boat in Italy.
And we are the Moving Center.
Today, we're going to tell you some stories about the power of play to create and deepen connection and to support positive change and development.
We are going to give you some guidance on how you can begin to tap into the endless reservoir of creativity, innovation, positive expression of love, and connection.
Play is a very powerful force for learning, and it can help us dance through difficulties, challenges with ourselves and our kids, and most of all, actually give us the opportunity to step away from trying to fix, step away from correcting, and being in a more connective relationship with our kids.
I'm going to tell you a story about using play to help someone who wasn't able to play.
I'm going to tell you a story about using play to help a child recover her sense of safety and her connection to her body.
And my story will be about using playfulness in order to gradually move from rigidity and intolerance into a more free, tolerant, and flexible state.
I told you I'm going to tell you a story about using play to help a child recover her sense of safety and her connection to her body. In this case, it was the story of Ariella. She's 16 months, and she was brought to me because she didn't use her arms anymore due to a series of incidents in the hospital, which led into that she didn't want to use her arms anymore, and she didn't want to be touched on her arms anymore, on her hands at all. So Ariella was sitting on the lap of her father, nestling really safe in a very nice position. She loves that position. I worked with her a few times, so I had the idea of playing with big giant balls, which have some of them have egg shape and some are really bright colors and all kinds of forms. And so I used the biggest one I found. It was a big green ball, and it might have appeared like a big giant cloud coming in the front of her face. So she was starting to reach out to this ball, which I kind of like played with. I sung a little bit and tapped on it. And she reached out with her head first. So, and because her head reached out first, so she was folding backwards, of course, and also forward. So she was actually rolling a little bit backwards, and she used her feet, she used her hands to reach to the ball, her head to the ball. So the entire girl was folding towards this ball, and it was a beautiful thing to experience. So she touched the ball, and I touched her. And so we started playing with the ball, and soon she was leading the play with the different shapes of balls I presented to her in different colors and different shapes. And we played with looking further, looking this side, looking the other side, looking closer, looking far away, closer to her. And she was not only tolerating me, I totally forgot about that she wasn't using her arms, and she might have forgotten that too. So she was just enjoying playing her with her whole self, and she was leaning and she was shifting her weight, and she was reaching out into zones where she would have fallen off if her father wouldn't save her from falling off. So she was really into playing and reaching. She had such a good time. And the next day, the parents were sending me a wonderful video here where Ariella was on the floor and starting to creep on the floor and to move on the floor, leaning on her hands and start reaching for toys. It was just a wonderful moment, and it's wonderful to do this work and being playful So to make you feel a little bit about what I did with Ariella, maybe you just imagine, or maybe you sit even on the floor, and even if you sit on a chair, just reach out with your hands in front of you and feel how you do it. Reach out in front of you and feel how you do it. That means like you're using your hips to lean forward and you fold into, or are you rounding your back to do that? Is your head following the movement? Are you leaning forward with your entire body? Is your weight shifting? And when it is shifting, where is it shifting? And can you now deliberately choose to use your head first when you reach forward? And still have your hands, your arms in front of you, and in order to touch some invisible, maybe big green egg-shaped ball. And then maybe the next time you're reaching out, you lean more with your feet. You imagine you're sitting like Ariella and you would use your feet. That doesn't mean that they have to move. With your knees, with your thighs, with the area around the groins, the pelvis. And the next time, maybe you think about you want to reach to that giant green ball with your hands and you want to touch it because also someone is tapping on it and playing rhythmically. Maybe you want to feel the vibrations and you jump off the ball and you come back again, and you just have the whole feeling of playfulness, of enjoying different parts of your body, leaning into that big ball, and then have all of it coordinated into reaching out, reaching forward, and grabbing the ball, touching it, maybe with one hand more than the other. So you just let it flow and experiment. What would be other ways to reach forward? What would be other ways? Other directions, closer, further, right, to the left, and down and up. Can you imagine how and feel how your weight is shifting, how you use your whole self to play with that ball? And how can you take this playfulness into your own life and let yourself play more, be more playful?
So I'm going to tell you a story about a girl that I worked with. She was about 3. She had a degenerative genetic condition, and she had been gradually over several years actually losing functioning and becoming less and less connected, less and less present, less movement and sound and everything, and her eyes more closed. And she came to Boston, was getting some new gene therapy, and there were some changes, but she still was often very almost absent in terms of movement, in terms of gazing and sound. So I noticed that when her parents went to roll her from her back to her side, there was this brief moment where there was kind of like a little flutter of her eyes and a little movement, and it was like a little moment of like she was kind of what more awake, more alert. Even I wouldn't even say that, but there was a moment of more kind of um, something there in terms of interaction with the environment. So what I started thinking about how to play, like how to play with that possibility of her waking up a little bit more, and so what I started to do was just very, very gradually kind of approaching this moment of turning from her back towards her side, and seeing just before they would pass this moment in the movement, or get to the moment in movement, I would go back, and then I would come a little bit towards it another way. And so it was kind of like approaching this little moment of wakefulness, from different directions and different kind of rhythms, and getting almost to it and coming away, or going to it, and going past, and then almost coming back. I guess the way I was thinking about it was really playing with the possibility of this kind of state of being more alert, being more engaged, being more present. Um, and and then I found that I could find that feeling, or kind of like that kind of reaction from her, from different situations, also from pushing through her legs, or uh, different places in her body, and different types of movements, but kind of looking for a little moment of alertness, of wakefulness. And it was very, I don't know, it was very minimal what we were doing. It was, but her parents started to say that in this week that I was working with her, she was started vocalizing more, and opening her eyes and smiling, and some laughing. Yeah. Yeah. And it was really remarkable to me how, like, just taking this one little sliver of a opportunity to kind of reconnect, to come back to the world, and playing with that in all these different ways helped her to find more uh, of herself, actually, in her environment.
As I mentioned before, I want to tell you the story about playfulness as a mean to expand tolerance and flexibility. One of my visits around the world, I was working with a sweet little 5-year-old girl. Let's call her Bella. She was an autistic girl with some genetic condition. She was hypotonic. She was walking, not completely verbal, but though she was using vowel sounds, words that doesn't mean much. But what was most prominent, she wasn't going to let me touch her. And her daddy told me she doesn't let anybody touch her, ever, unless this man or woman can sing, and also can sing in the right pitch, because she's very sensitive. If you're off tune, she will just back off. So luckily, as I'm also a singer, I don't mind so much if I can touch her or not, the way I work, but I use that as a way to, get into her world. This narrow focus. She was sitting there, really suspicious, looking from the corner of her eye if I'm approaching. So I started actually working with my singing when I approached her, singing all the known and unknown songs that I know, and making them perfect pitched while touching, while approaching and then touching and singing. And I could see that she's very suspicious. She's looking toward my hands. I could see that she's here listening to my singing. All this week, I correlated the singing and the way I sang with the way I moved her. So if I slow down with my singing. And sometimes I would use the voice, I would use the pitch, I would use the slowing down in my singing and quieting down, so I can still work with her gradually, without her need to hear my voice. I mean, I could work for longer and longer periods. I could see when she's going to snap, and then I would start sing again gradually. And then I could expand that, and she could tolerate more and more my movement, my touch, and entering and coming out of the moment of quietness. So this occurred throughout the week, and we did many things and kind of converse with it. But then after all these known and unknown songs where she was really tuned to, I started using my actually descriptive, using movement and attention, like, "Sit Bella, I am going to touch you." So then I knew it's not a pitch. She cannot. It's not something that she can tell if I'm off or on tune. And then gradually I went to like saying things, like if it's in the border of singing and saying it. And the last part of the week, I was able to work with her, and then I started deliberately singing songs again, but deliberately here and there, going quarter or half a tone sharp or flat, and to see how she reacts, and then go back immediately to the correct pitch, and then started making these intervals, these off tunes more and more, and she could tolerate more. And by the end of the week, she started saying more words and connecting, and sure, she let me touch her without a problem. And many things followed from there. So that's the story about Bella and the playful singing. I'm going to guide you, simple guidance. This is only going to be one or two steps of a whole series guidance that we're doing with parents and therapists throughout the last few years. And even though I'm going to guide you through 2-3 steps, please relate to each step. Take the time to take each step. Give it time, few days, few weeks to observe how you react. I'm not going to talk anything now about the steps. Are not going to be about playfulness, but they are going to lead toward the next steps toward playfulness. Maybe pick ahead of time before you even meet it in person. Think about encounters, day-to-day simple activities that you're doing, that you have with your kids, that you feel that are challenging, but not the most challenging, not the one that actually triggers a huge reaction emotionally, both from you or from your kid. Pick something simple. And when you're in the situation, see what your child is doing. And of course, if it's something that's always worth mentioning, if it's something like an emergency and he needs you, first of all, take care of what needs to be taken care of. But provided that everything is okay and he's just, struggling with his challenges, look at what he's doing and then turn the focus toward yourself. And feel, first of all, what's the first urge? Do you want to intervene? Do you want to jump in? Do you want to solve the problem? Is there a problem? Can you look at it and just before doing anything, just look at how you feel instead of reacting? How does it make you feel? Where is it in your body that you feel it? If it's uncomfortable, if it's in your breathing. And let yourself just sit with that. See if you can look at him, observe him, and at the same time, look at yourself and how you want to react. And how do you feel? So that's the first step. It's simple, but takes a little coaching and self-training to get it so that you will not react. But it's okay if you react also, because again, it's about playfulness. There's no mistakes anyway. There are no mistakes. The next step would be to turn the focus toward your child and just start going into details to just observe, as if you're running an inner monologue in your head while you're describing to yourself what he's doing, as if you're talking to him. Oh, I see that you're doing it like that, or you're doing this. And think about, when you do it, think about movement with attention. You don't need to touch your child. You don't even need to speak to him. If you're appreciative and you're really observing him, and this inner monologue or descriptive monologue will help you realize what he's doing, and then later on the next steps will be easier. But think about movement with attention in the description. Oh, this is what you're doing. Aha. I mean, think about, doesn't matter what the interaction is or what the activity is. Then the next step would be later on to join the activity, to join what he's doing. You can even touch him or just do it with him without trying to change anything, without trying to solve any problem. Just join in, and at the same time thinking again in your inner monologue, this is what you're doing. And then it will help you work with him, do the same thing, play with him, and just join in. And then there are more steps further down the line that we can do, that goes toward the playfulness and deliberate mistakes or variations and other things that we're doing. We're guiding parents through, parents and therapists.
We'd like to invite you to check out an online course that we are teaching coming up. It's going to be about play and actualizing the elements of neuroplasticity in the parent-child relationship or the professional-child relationship. These are issues that we think are fascinating and really powerful to work with, and learning to skillfully and deliberately use play while respecting and connecting to the human being who's in front of you is a fantastic pursuit for any of us. And we hope that you'll join us.
I want to say also, we are the Moving Center. We will be teaching again an in-person intensive 2 weeks plus workshop with the ideas we've been talking about here in the coming fall, in October in Germany, and then in London this winter, December. So we hope, if you want to join in, it's a nice opportunity.
And if you can't see us in Germany, in the meantime, we are also offering online coaching workshops. And we are teaching parents and professionals all over the world on the internet. So if you can't see us in person, we find ways to reach you. And we hope you enjoyed it. This was Andrea.
Eitan.
Maddie.
And we are the Moving Center.